something a little different for us today. Got this board in. It's an Australian shaper. I can't remember the name of the guy, but it's a really nice looking board. Nose rider, big fin on it, big spoon out of the nose. But unfortunately for the customer, he doesn't get to use it as much as he'd like to because it's really hard to travel with this enormous fin. So he wants to remove this fin and put a box in. Once we get the fin box in, then he is going to use this fin. There was some more damage around the place, a couple of little nicks in the tail corners, a few cracks on rails, and up by the nose there's a bit of a split in the glass there and a few chips out of the nose. So they're all repaired, they just need their final sand and polish. So we're going to go ahead and put a long futures box in. Problem that we're going to face is this is a really thin tail for nose riding. So once we get the fin off, get it all sanded, get that concave back in, we'll be able to measure it accurately. So we're not going to be able to put the box where it currently sits. We're going to have to slide it forward quite a bit, I imagine. But that's the sacrifices you make for putting a box into a board designed for a glass on. Hello everybody and welcome to the editing suite. This is where all the magic happens. Don't worry, this isn't an ad. I'm not cool or popular enough to be approached by advertisers, but I did want to give you guys a shout out because this week Small Kind Ding Repairs reached 3,000 subscribers on YouTube, which I think is pretty epic. I remember hitting the first 100 and I thought that was pretty cool, but 3,000 is, yeah, I never actually thought the channel would get that many. So unreal guys, thank you so much, and all your comments and likes and shares and all the rest, all that stuff we do on the internet is all appreciated. On the subject of comments, I have been getting a lot of messages from people on Instagram. I've even had some emails, Facebook, and I've even had a few phone calls as well, which has been surprising. Cool, but surprising. Definitely wasn't expecting it. And these people wanted help with their boards and their repairs, which is fine, and I'm always happy to help if you reach out. I will say though, as the channel is growing, I'm struggling more and more to answer everybody and keep up with everyone, and it is manageable. I am doing it, but as the channel grows, I think that's going to become harder and harder. So what I've done is I've set up a membership page. I guess it's under this video or it'll be on my channel for sure, and the perks of that membership is, or one of the perks of that membership is that we can arrange video calls or phone calls and messages and all the rest and help you out with your repairs if you need it. A shout out to Suzuki Ton, because he is the first person to ever sign up as a member. I actually forgot I even set it up. So shout out to him. He had a problem with a board, but he got it sorted. I'm going to say we got it sorted, but really he got it sorted. That's it, really. So thank you again for the subscriptions, and back to the video. Choo-hoo. Fin is off. So we've kept it pretty flat, but we're going to have to sand it to shape so we've got a flat surface to route for that box. Easy as that, we are sanded flat. There's a bit of a crack in the glass along this area, so I've had to sand it a little extra to get rid of that crack, which has given us a bit of a color change. But I think what I'm going to do is, before I move any further, I'm going to give this a coat of resin anyway, just to tie it all up, fill any air bubbles, and then give that a sand, and then we'll be able to measure our thickness and see how far forward we're going to have to push that fin box. So I made the assumption that this board was PU foam poly resin, but there's something about where I kind of sanded that crack out here and it's a bit lighter. It's kind of looking a little EPS-ish to me, and you can see too the way my poly resin, it's not adhering to the surface properly, which makes me a little bit suspicious that this board is glassed in epoxy. Although I have already done these other repairs around the place and I had no issues with them, but I haven't sanded them yet, so I might sand one of these and see how the adhesion is. Quite often if you're putting poly over epoxy, you'll have trouble with adhesion and it's almost impossible to feather the edges, so it can be a pretty good indication that you're working with epoxy and not poly. So I'm going to do a quick sand on one of the other repairs and see how that comes up. If that feather's all right and is fine, then it might just be a case of it's almost dark, so there's not a lot of UV outside, so possibly my UV resin just didn't cure properly. I should have left it longer or waited till tomorrow when the sun's back out. So we got all that shitty resin off and I sanded this repair over here and the resin is feathered okay. It wasn't breaking away like it was here, but I'm still questioning what this foam is, and my fear now is even if it's PU foam in there, has this guy glassed it in epoxy. So I think we're just going to route it for the fin box and then we're going to know what the foam is because we'll be able to see it. So that's probably has to be our next step at this stage. Nothing can be straightforward with these jobs. So these boxes are basically an inch deep. They're a little deeper with that flange or that raised lip, but that of course gets sanded away. But yeah, we're looking at about an inch, so we probably need an inch and a bit because we don't want the bottom of the box sitting against the glass on the deck side on the board. We need something kind of between this part of the box and the fiberglass on top, so we'll probably go up a bit further to give ourselves a bit more leeway. Going to have to move quite far forward. So we are definitely shifting that fin quite a ways. Originally it was back here, but we're going to be moving. I guess he's going to want to ride it as far back as possible. It is a really thin tail. He did say that he's not the greatest nose rider in the world, so hopefully it won't make too much of a difference to him, but it's definitely going to loosen things up a little bit, having that fin that much farther forward. Further forward, that much further forward. So what I'm really hoping is this is PU foam inside here. I'm hoping it's not EPS because that may have an effect on all the other repairs that I've already done on the board. If I can give you two quick tips for routing with a jig, you'll see the way I've masked this off. So I haven't stretched tape all the way over because doing that allows the jig to move sideways in kind of the gap underneath the tape. So I've gone board to jig sort of along it. The other tip I would give you is move whatever area you're routing on the board, move it above the stands, directly above the stands, so the board can't tip as you're pushing down. Those are the two main tips. Let's get into it and hope it's PU. Success. Got our depth good. It's nice and straight. We've got PU foam, and we haven't gone through to the deck side. There's still stringer there, so that's good. Yeah, box fits nice and snug. We've gone a little bit deeper than the box because we have to account for the resin that's going to sit underneath the box. So that, I don't know, millimetre of resin is going to lift that box up ever so slightly, so we have to account for that. If we routed it absolutely perfectly, so that the box sat in like that, thereabouts, like that, so we've routed it perfectly, by the time we get resin under it, that's going to lift it up ever so slightly, and then when we cloth it and sand it, we're going to sand all that cloth away because we're going to have that lip there. So you want to go a fraction lower than the glass on the board. It's amazing how much wood you get out of 18 inches of, or 12 inches of stringer, or however long that box is. We've gotten pretty lucky aesthetically on this board because the shaper has kindly left us with this original pencil line on his tuck. So in order to hide where that damage was here, there was that crack, what we're going to do is mask this tail patch off. We're going to tint our lamination, and that'll hopefully hide where I've had to sand extra, and we'll follow that same cut lap. Go a little bit forward of this line here, and it should all tie in together pretty well, hopefully. This is the bestest bit. All our resin is cured, so now we get to sand the box down and hope that it came out all right. Depending how the sanding goes, we might expose some weaves. We'll see how it goes, but we might have to do one last coat just to hide some weave or something like that, and we'll do that with the UV resin if needed, but hopefully it isn't needed. See how we get on. Our first sand over the box seems to have gone okay, so we shouldn't need to put any more resin on this board. Obviously I've got to catch up these other repairs that happened around the place, so I'm probably going to do all of them with 240 because they're only small areas. Then we'll sand this with 240, then sand everything with 320, and then we'll move on to the wet sanding. That's it, another job done and dusted, ready to get out of here. Small problem with this board is I somehow have lost the job sheet with all the customer's details on it. So I actually don't know the name of the person who owns this board. I have no phone number for them, so I can't contact them to tell them it's ready. So I'm gonna have to sit around and wait for them to call and say, hey, it's been however long and is my board ready yet? Then I'll be able to give it back. Kind of a funny one, this one. Although it's not an overly difficult job, a little bit of finesse, but technically it's not too hard. But moving the fin that far forward, it's going to loosen this board up a lot. It's definitely going to affect the nose riding a little. Yeah, there's definitely a big difference between that and that. But the important thing is the customer couldn't use the board as much as he wanted, although he loved the board, but that big fin just made it too hard to travel with the family in the car and on planes and all the rest. So if he gets more use out of it, even if the board doesn't ride as ideally as it once did, at least he's going to be surfing it more. And he's got the old fin, so it can always be reverted back to how it was anyway. If the new owner or down the line he changes his mind, everything is possible with fiberglass and foam, so hopefully it works all right for him. Other than that, guys, thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you are all well, and we will see you in the next one very, very soon. Like, subscribe, share, all that jazz. Nice one, guys. Chee-hoo!